Hi everyone, it's Ori and welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be discussing some books that I have recently read. So since I've last updated you, I have read a total of 15 books, which I felt like was just too many to put in one video. I felt like it would end up being way too long, I would hate editing it, no one would finish watching it, and so I thought I would break up those 15 books into 3 different videos and just talk about 5 books per video. That way I can actually discuss the book a little bit instead of just being like, this is what it was called, next! So the first book I finished reading at the beginning of September, and that was Every Exquisite Thing by Matthew Quick. Matthew Quick is the author of the Silver Linings Playbook, which is also a really good story. I've read his other book, Please Forgive Me, Leonard Peacock, I believe is what it's called. This book follows a teenage girl who has her life set out for her. She has a soccer scholarship on the way. She's about to leave high school, and all of a sudden she has this huge identity crisis where she just feels like she doesn't want to get up, she doesn't want to be who she is or who the world has set her out to be. And she meets this author through a series of events who's written a book kind of about this existential identity crisis. What's the purpose of living? Why are we here? Who am I? What am I here to do? Those kinds of questions. I felt like this book had a really good sense of urgency. The emotions felt very raw, very real, very visceral, which was amazing, but it also didn't really have a sticking effect with me. It didn't impact me in a meaningful way, and perhaps it would have had I been a little bit younger when I'd read this or in a different place in my life. Matthew Quick's writing style is really easy to dive right into. You can just flip through the pages like crazy. It's not difficult, but it is really elegantly written. The book is pretty short, so it didn't take me very long to read. I liked that fast pacing. I did like the characterization. I liked the character growth. I really appreciated seeing a therapist character portrayed well in this novel, and I would recommend it. I think ultimately I gave it about a 4 out of 5 stars because even though I was enjoying it while I was reading it, I could just feel that it wasn't going to necessarily last for me. Next, I read a collection of short stories by Haruki Murakami called Men Without Women. This is one that has interested me for quite a while. It has 7 or maybe 8 stories in it following male characters and their relationships with women, how the absence of women in their lives have really impacted them in positive and mostly negative ways, whether that be never having fallen in love or whether that's their wife leaving them or something like that. There were a lot of different tales that took drastically different turns. One thing that I think that I didn't appreciate is it didn't feel like there was enough continuity, even though there was this theme running through of male characters on their own and their negative relationships with women. I felt like some of them were really out there and some of them were very like contemporary fiction like, and it kind of threw me off. There was one that was just really kind of futuristic-y and kind of surreal, and I was very confused as to what was going on, and then there were just some that were stories about, you know, guys whose wives had left them or some such. For me, this was about a 3-star short story collection just for the fact that I really believe that Murakami's strength lies in his ability to very slowly weave disparate pieces of the story together to form this cohesive whole, and at the end you're just shocked and you go, oh my gosh, that's where all of these weird pieces came into play, or that's how they came together in order to form this one coherent story, this one tapestry, if you will. And you know, you can't really do that with short stories because they're short, and so I feel like even though I like his writing style in general, I just didn't really like the stories that much, and I didn't feel like I got the satisfaction of having everything come together at the end and having that aha moment of realizing what all of these pieces were leading up to. That being said, there were a couple of the stories that I did enjoy. After that, I read a short graphic novel that I was really looking forward to called Pumpkinheads, written by Rainbow Rowell and illustrated by Faith Erin Hicks. This is a cute story about 2 teenagers who are about to go off to college who have worked together in a pumpkin patch for the last 3 years, and them taking the very last night of their work here at the pumpkin patch and just going on this kind of wild adventure across all of the different little stations. There's like the corn maze and the hay rides and the, you know, caramel apples and all of these different little parts of the pumpkin patch. In fact, I can probably show you. There's, you know, it's pretty intense here. It's a really very big pumpkin patch. As you know, I absolutely adore autumn and I really like Rainbow Rowell's writing. This for me didn't quite do it for me. I felt like it was mildly cute. I mean, it did kind of get me in the autumnal spirit and it was heartwarming, but I felt like it was just like not quite there. There was something missing. I couldn't fully connect with the characters, and I know that it's not just the graphic novel format because there have been graphic novels that have done that for me, and so I'm not sure what it was because I love the color palette, all of these autumn colors, but I just didn't fall in love with it like I wanted to. Part of it could have been expectation, so there you have that. After that, I read a very short essay by Jhumpa Lahiri, who I also really love, called The Clothing of Books. And this is a essay that was originally written in Italian and then translated, I believe, by Jhumpa Lahiri's husband into English. And it is about the process of crafting a cover for a book and her feelings about the different book covers she's had and how they become part of the book, become part of the story, become part of the perception that people have of the work before they've even begun reading, and how that informs how people feel about her books and how people feel about books in general. She talks about a bit of the history of book covers. She talks about some of the struggles that she's faced when dealing with publishers regarding book covers and things of that nature. It was, I feel like there are two things that I want to say about it. The first thing that I want to say is that Jhumpa Lahiri has such a mastery of the English language that when she decided to write in Italian, I kind of didn't appreciate her work as much because I feel like something is missing. That finesse, that excellence is really lacking from her work these days. It's just because it's a different language and then it's translated, and so it's not as eloquent. The other thing is that I'm just not that big of a fan of essays like this. I like stories. I like stories that are longer, but I am trying to be a little bit more diverse in my reading and try to incorporate different formats that I don't normally read. So this was good for me to kind of step out of my comfort zone and read something that was just much more informative and less lyrical. The last book that I'd like to talk about in this video today is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. This is Sally Rooney's debut novel. She's an Irish author, if you're unaware, who wrote Normal People. I really loved Normal People. I thought it was an excellently told story. I really appreciated the way in which she told it and the difficult topics that she had the bravery to discuss so openly. If you want to hear more about Normal People, I do have a full review. I'll link that down below in the description box. This one I also really liked, but I did not love in the same way that I loved Normal People. I still found Sally Rooney's writing style to be superb. I feel like it's just so fascinating. You know when authors say something in such a way that you realize that's the way you feel about something too. It's like the description wasn't how you would have described something, but you can recognize that it's true. That's how I feel about Sally Rooney's writing style. So I would definitely recommend reading this one. This novel really follows, it follows four friends, but mostly it's told from the perspective of this one young girl. She's in her low 20s and she performs slam poetry with her best friend who's also in her low 20s. They're both in university and they happen to kind of stumble their way into this world of artsy people who are a little bit older and more sophisticated. They become friends with this couple who is in their mid-30s, one of whom is a photographer and a writer, and the other who's just kind of like the husband's sidekick. And the story details the interweavings of the relationships between these four people and how each of the young girls forms different relationships with each of the older members of the couple. It's really well done. It's a little bit uncomfortable. I would say that Sally Rooney definitely tackles uncomfortable subject matter. She, in particular in this one, tackles adultery, tackles polyamory, and for me, I don't like reading about that. So that's why it kind of knocked it down off the pedestal that I had put this book up on, and I was like, please be as good as Normal People. But for me, I just couldn't get into it because I was a little bit bothered, and that's on me, you know, that's not on her whatsoever, and I am appreciative that there are people who are willing to tackle subject matter that is a little bit more taboo, is a little bit like, ooh, should we really be talking about this? And if so, how should we be talking about it? So I think she did a really good job of talking about it. That being said, I did not like the ending, and I just didn't really like the main character. To be fair, the main characters in Normal People weren't necessarily likable either, but this one I just wanted to like hit her over the head and be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? I don't understand. So that's that. Yeah, I would recommend it, but definitely be wary if any of those topics that I previously mentioned make you uncomfortable. They're very present in this book. So if you were to only read one Sally Rooney book, I would certainly recommend Normal People over Conversations with Friends. But if you loved Normal People, definitely try Conversations with Friends, because like I said, the writing style is really top-notch. Alright friends, thank you for watching this video. Keep your eye out for parts 2 and 3 coming to you very soon, and until next time, I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I am sending you love.